Welcome today. I'm here to introduce Carsten Brunn, and I was thinking of one word to describe Carsten, and I came up with the word globalist. I think I can use it in this room, but he is one of the few executive managers who's managed 3 consecutive large markets in pharmaceuticals in the last, I guess, 7 years, in China, in Japan, and now in the United States. So he has a large range of experience and a worldview that's often neglected in the silo areas of healthcare. So I'd like to start, Carsten, asking you, why is it a good time to be in healthcare? Or alternatively, are you taking a lot of aspirin these days?
So I'm not taking aspirin yet. I'm not 50 yet. But no, listen, I think it's a really exciting time to be in healthcare. I think it's an exciting and transformational time to work in pharma and biotech. And I think it's an exciting time to be a patient, actually. Because if we look at the progress we've made in science, we have a much better understanding of the biology of disease, coupled with the availability of data, the capacity to process data. And I think that really, and we heard this earlier, we're really moving towards precision medicine and becoming more targeted based on genetic profiles, which makes this a lot more complex, of course.
Right. Let's talk about the key theme today in this meeting, which is value. It's come up about 47 times, I've counted, in the last couple of hours. And value is a real differentiator, particularly in pharmaceuticals. You know, the bar for innovation is getting progressively higher, and you have this frenzy of consolidation taking place in the other parts of the healthcare vertical. So how is a company like Bayer responding to these changes? We see that pharmaceuticals are actually kind of sticking to their core or sticking to their knitting, but others are looking to own the patient, and they're attempting to expand the number of covered lives they serve. So that's going to put some pressure on your sales model. So what is Bayer doing to address that?
Yeah, so I think I'm a strong believer that value is driven by innovation. And I think the innovation model has changed. I talked about it's getting more complex. Not a single company can end this or own this end-to-end or have this in-house. So I think partnerships become a lot more important in all of this. And as Bayer, we have a number of partnerships. All the way ranging from academia, as many people in the audience we have partnerships with, small companies, CROs. So I think that's kind of shifting. Specifically, maybe give you one example around value, precision medicine. We've signed a partnership with Loxo Oncology, a very exciting compound, exactly this precision medicine in oncology, addressing a specific gene mutation, the fusion protein, with a very high response rate. And I think this is kind of where the market is headed, precision medicine and partnerships.
Right. And how is this venture into, I know you're in the immuno-oncology space, but how is this venture with Loxo Oncology going to drive this value proposition that Bayer is putting forward?
I think it's a super complex environment to launch a brand, and I think it's a real partnership with Loxo. They obviously bring the deep understanding of the science. We bring the deep understanding of how do you bring something like this complex to market. And I think that's where the value actually comes in, that you work together and you leverage your respective strengths.
Right. And value is often exhibited precisely at the time of launch, and then you build value over time through the product cycle, I would presume. That would be the approach.
That's correct. Yes, right. I mean, yes, we're co-developing this. Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
That's good. Well, let me drill a little further on the issue of precision medicine. The science, as we've seen earlier this morning, is progressing nicely. The ability to tailor or target medications precisely to the need of an individual patient is increasing. But I wonder, as the science grows, is the practice and the policy and the regulatory environment moving sufficiently fast enough for you at Bayer to take advantage of this trend? Or what is Bayer doing right now in the area of precision medicine, and how are you coping with some of these larger regulatory and policy and practice challenges?
Yes, I think, the focus really is, and this was mentioned earlier as well, is around agility, really. I mean, we're fundamentally changing the R&D model. It's more and more externalized, where science is moving so fast. As a company, you can't understand the whole value flow, basically. So partnerships become important. Very early on, identifying new targets. We have some exciting partnerships actually here in the Boston area with the Broad Institute, for example, where we have some very hard targets to identify new INDs. We have also broader investments, the so-called LEAPS program, which maybe I can talk later a bit more in more detail.
Well, actually, maybe say a few words about the LEAPS program and these ventures. Yeah.
So LEAPS is really, and the panel before us talked about this, we really have to disrupt ourselves as an organization, as an industry, and we exactly have done this. We set out, it's an independent organization of our R&D organization. It's called the LEAPS program, wants to address some of the key challenges that humanity actually is facing, feeding the world, but also curing disease. 10 breakthroughs. We have the ambition to cure blindness, congenital heart failure, just to mention a few. Big words, but we also have put some actions behind this. We invested in 3 companies in the Boston area. One in the area of gene editing, CRISPR-Cas9 technology with CRISPR Therapeutics. The other in the area of cell therapy, iPS technology, stem cell therapy, Blue Therapeutics, and in microbiome in agriculture with a company called Ginkgo Bioworks. And I think what's unique here, you can say, well, many companies do this kind of partnerships. I think we take a very different approach. We're taking a long-term view, so it's a real partnership. So we're really financing 5 years plus. So it's not a 2 or 3 year game. We give full control to the management of the respective companies. I think that's very important as well. You don't want to bring big pharma process into those startup companies. We share IP with them, and we offer our technology that we have in-house. So I think it's quite a unique partnership model that we have taken.
Right. It looks like a pragmatic externalization approach, exactly. Let me turn quickly to the issue of you can't have progress in medicine without improvements in process. I mean, the future of the pharmaceutical industry depends on speed, efficiency, time to market. Are you a strong believer in some of these digital technologies? Are they really going to help Bayer's ability to get a drug to market quicker? What about AI, machine learning? Is that really something that you're investing in heavily and becoming a big part of your product mix?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the buzzword right now. Nobody can be on stage and talk about AI and machine learning. Right. I'm a big believer myself, but I also caution that I think it's underutilized in healthcare for sure, but we have to be mindful how do we actually apply it, right? So I think there has been no real breakthrough yet in the application. We're taking a very pragmatic approach. We're doing a lot of experiments and pilots. One, I think, and I always like to talk about things we have done already and not things we plan to do. So one thing actually that works, we have a partnership with IBM Watson, where we work together on medical coding. So the number of adverse events coming in clinical trials is done by, or used to be done by individuals. Now with IBM Watson, natural language processing is very accurate. And by the end of this year, we have completed this basically. So I think that's a very tangible, but yes, and I could speak probably all day about the potential of AI, but I think it is in reality small steps.
Well, AI is a form of pattern recognition, which works, I think, on the development side, but not so well on the discovery side. So it has its pluses and minuses. Finally, let's talk a bit about the future of science. Where do you think the most exciting areas of therapy are in the next 5 to 10 years? And is Bayer making any big plans to jump into new therapy areas beside the 4, I think, or 5 that you're focusing on now?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, the LEAPS program, these are areas that we really strongly believe in. And I think it's very bold because we're disrupting ourselves. We are, among others, a hematology company. And we're looking to cure genetic blood disorders with gene editing. So I think that's a very concrete example gene editing, stem cell therapy, which will fundamentally change the way we treat disease and actually cure disease. And I think this is not music of the future. I think this will be reality in the next 5 or 10 years, and that's what we're building on. And at the same time, of course, we have our regular R&D program, but it's really some of the leaps that we think will transform this industry, and we want to be part of that in the front line.
And just one final comment. Bayer is a global company. You're very active in the United States, but you do have that perspective coming from a German-based entity. Do you think the U.S. still has the chops to succeed in innovation? Are there any false points that you think are creeping into the dialogue that need to be fixed from the U.S. perspective?
I mean, listen, I think the US is still the hotbed of innovation, no doubt, especially in this city here. What's happening here, I think, is amazing. I think China is to watch, definitely in the future, especially on the digital front. Obviously, they have a bit different view on data privacy. But I think definitely the US, and we obviously as Bayer and many companies, and you heard the other sponsoring company earlier, investing in Boston, in the United States, I think is still the hotbed of innovation.
Good. Well, thank you very much. It was very useful, and thank you to this globalist and Steve Bannon. Take another tech. Thanks.
Thanks
very much.
Thank you.
Okay.